Hey, Brandon here. Welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. I got another 2025 rookie scouting report show for you today. We're going to talk about one of my favorite running backs headed to the 2025 NFL draft, Mr. Damien Martinez. I think he's going to be an early day 3 selection. I think he could be a sleeper in this draft. I'm going to be joined again by Jason DiRienzo, my podcast co-host. We're going to break it all down. We've watched his all 22 film. We're going to talk about his 2024 production, his PFF grades. We're going to give you our strengths and weaknesses after watching the All-22 film and then give you our report card grades. All right, to help me get to 20,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, man. Come on, man. It doesn't cost you a thing to hit that subscribe button. Just go ahead and do it. All right, let's get to the show. So Jason, let's get to our first 2025 rookie report. All right. And let's talk about Mr. Damien Martinez, running back, 6 foot, 226 pounds. I am very glad he didn't come in at 240 at the Senior Bowl, where there were rumors. I was like, oh my God, he's got an eating problem or something. But, true junior, which is interesting. Surprised he's coming to the NFL actually, with his, as deep as this class is, and next year, just another year of tape. But anyway, he's shared the backfield with Mark Fletcher Jr. As well as that Lyle kid, who incoming freshman as well. So we're going to go through his PFF stats here. We're going to go through a little production, strengths and weaknesses, and then talk about our all important scouting report grades. All right, so let's go through his 2024 production on the season. Like I said, he shared the backfield a lot this year. So the stats, 827 total yards, average 5.7 yards a tote, 9 TDs. Receiving, I think he had 17 receptions on the season for 198 yards. All right, his PFF rush grade, 91.6, ranked third. So these ranks that you see on the film are for the top 25 running backs headed to the 2025 NFL draft. I exported the data from PFF and got rid of everyone who's not going to the draft. Pretty much put him in order of the top 25 that I expect in draft capital. So he's got, that's pretty good. Having that PFF, having the third best rush rating is pretty solid. Yards after contact, 3.91, ranked 9th in the class. Missed tackles forced, ranked 15th. At 23% of his runs, he made a guy miss at 34 total. Explosive plays that are 10 plus yards, he had 21 of them, which represented 14%. Of his attempts. His elusive rating ranked 11th at 102.7. All right, so pretty decent grades. I really like that PFF rush grade. Now, you and I, we watched the All-22 film. We watched his Iowa State game, his last game of the season, his Syracuse game, Georgia Tech, and Florida State. We broke all the All-22 down. So tell us, what did you see? What's your overall thought on Damien Martinez before we, fill in the blanks before we get to our scouting report?
Yeah, I think he's a very impressive runner. I mean, when you watch the film, you see that he is definitely patient at the line. He allows things to develop. So he allows those gaps to develop. If it's going to be an outside zone stretch play, he doesn't immediately take off. He lets his blockers move to the outside. And then as you do see that acceleration, it's pretty good for a guy who's listed at 226 pounds. So you see the acceleration there, and he also identifies the different gaps that he wants to take, if it's outside zone or if it's an interior gap. Sometimes he can be a little bit too patient, so things will kind of collapse on him if he takes too long to process. But ultimately, I do think he is a pretty good processor. I like the processing ability once he navigates himself through the trenches, which he does really well. He has a lower pad level when he's going between the trenches, kind of pops that pad level up a little bit when he gets into the second level. But it's almost like he does that in order to read the field navigation of where he's going to go next based on linebacker pursuit angles, or if a safety is coming up to try for a tackle attempt. The fluid footwork that he has for his size. I mean, we're talking ankle flexion and hip dip to really laterally explode pretty easily, either left or right. Very elusive. I was kind of shocked that he's only 11th, because I know he's a bigger back, but you see he's got that subtle footwork, and like you call that sweet feet, it's absolutely there. And it's very organic with how he moves. You don't see him losing speed. He doesn't have to downshift. And speaking of shifting gears, I like the long speed. I think it's decent enough for a guy of his size. He's not going to be that breakaway guy at the NFL level. He could be, he was in college, but I think at the NFL level, it could be a little bit hard. But he's going to be that 5 to 10 yard banger where you just feel really good about making sure you give him the ball if you're in a situation where you need those couple of yards. And as a pass catcher, I think he does a really good job. Catches outside of his frame, adjusts to the ball. If the ball's behind him, he knows to stop, be on alert, and adjust and catch the ball pretty easily. As a blocker, I'm not too sure. I haven't watched enough film to really feel good about the blocking, but at the Senior Bowl, he was a great blocker. He did a really good job in those blocking drills. And one other little tidbit, Michael Anthony was a guy I was at the Senior Bowl with. He was there early for practices. He said Damien Martinez was always the first one onto the field. And as we were all leaving, he was also one of the last ones to leave the field. So that work ethic and intangibles are definitely there. So I like him overall. I think he's a very solid running back.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love that intangibles call. You know me, I'm all about that. So yeah, that's a great overview. The film, I really like what I saw too. I think the guy, like you said, for his footwork, for his size, I think is pretty good. I think it's really good.
Really good.
I was impressed with his vision. I think he's a really good processor at the line of scrimmage. All right, he's got that NFL ready frame. I think his agility is pretty solid. He's got good contact balance. His lateral movement skills, I think, are really, really good. Pass catching is great too. It's funny what you said about the pad level, because I agreed with you. You know, he runs with good pad level, through the line of scrimmage, but there were times where he finished his runs physically. You know me, I always look for physical finishers when it comes to that, but there were times where he popped up as well. And I'm like, God, you got to get your thing down. I thought that sometimes he was a little too patient at times, and there wasn't that acceleration. There was gaps, and where sometimes I think he waits a little too long to hit it, but I thought his vision was pretty solid. I saw a lot of cutbacks in those films. I saw a guy who originally was going to go, his gap discipline, when he was going to go here, and it just broke down, and he was able to pivot and adjust and make guys miss and continue forward. So I think overall, I agree with you. I think he's a day 3 guy, but I think he's going to, be an early day 3 guy, and I'm pretty excited to see where he goes. So let's get to our scouting report card. Vision and patience, the hallmark of any good running back, everybody, is you got to be able to see the field. You got to be able to, see the field, and hopefully your feet can follow what your mind is seeing on the field. But I gave him an A-, man. I think he has got, really good vision. I came away impressed with his vision a lot. His patience was good too, but like I said, thought there were times where he can be too patient, and there's a hole there, and I'm like, come on, hit it. So I gave him I gave him an A-.
Okay. Yeah, I gave him a solid B. I think it's good as well. And a B is not a bad thing. I actually think he's better within the second level with his vision than he is behind the line of scrimmage. There was a couple of times, not a couple of times, I did see him bank off the back end of his offensive lineman. But I think you're right. I think sometimes he's just too patient, and that limits the upside of that vision.
Sweet feet. The sweet feet meter is a trademarked term here on our YouTube channel.
Yes, it is.
And the lateral ability, I gave him a B+, man. I think he's got sweet feet for a 226-pound running back. I think it's underrated. I think people, I think it's one of his better traits for his size.
I couldn't agree more. I gave him a B+ as well for exactly what you just said.
Acceleration and long speed. Like I said, there were times where I'd like to see a little bit more acceleration, but then there were times watching the film where he makes a decision and boom, he is popping out and he is going forward, which I like. Now he's not going to have that long speed like we talked about. Although that first play at Ohio of the Iowa State game, he broke off that first run of the first play of the game. He got a head start, but like nobody was catching him. But I agree with what you said previously. It's just he's not going to outrun anybody in the NFL. But I give him a solid B.
Yeah, I give him a C+, which is as close to a solid B. And I mean, I think you said it perfectly. A guy who's 200 and some odd pounds, I'm not expecting him to have that breakaway long speed. So it's impressive what he can do.
Strength and contact balance, I gave him a B+. Again, there was just inconsistent finishing on plays, right? And early in the season, I was getting a little nervous about Martinez. I'm not going to lie, because I was seeing somebody who I felt like giving it all. But I think as the season went on, he got stronger. And he's one of these kind of running backs where I think you need to feed him the ball. It's got to be really difficult to be able to go in and out of the lineup constantly with Fletcher and Jordan Lyle, and it's like sometimes he's out for 8 or 9 minutes on the bench, so it doesn't really get into a rhythm. But like his strength and contact balance, a lot. B+.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I gave him a solid B. But yeah, that's a really good point. I think he is a momentum builder. Like he needs to get fed the ball.
So receiving ability, I gave him a B, like you mentioned before. I think he's serviceable out of the backfield. I just don't think he got many opportunities just because of the big timeshare down there in Miami.
Yeah, same thing. Gave him a B as well. Timeshare and the fact, I mean, I've seen enough. I think he could be a very reliable receiver at the next level.
Yeah. I can't wait to see where he lands. This guy's one of my
I
faves.
know.
Again, he's probably number 7 or 8 for me right now in my ranks. I just believe he's a little undervalued right now just because he didn't have that bell cow role. I'd be interested to see if he was
Yeah.
running at North Carolina this year and he was fed the ball as much like a Marion Hampton or at
Oh,
Iowa down there with Caleb Johnson. I mean, who knows what we'd be talking about right now, but he
right.
just doesn't, he had limited opportunity this year to really be able to put some consistent stuff on tape, but I'm a fan. It's going to be a
I'm a
day 3
fan as well.
guy, most likely. So can't wait to see where Mr. Martinez, I got him in a couple Debbie leagues. So I'm going to
I
be
got him too.
draft day. I'm going to be very curious to see where he goes. So there you guys got it. There is our scouting report on Mr. Damien Martinez.